Hello and welcome. I wanted to do a short video because I was making some cards for my Graphic 45 Home Sweet Home, and as I was making the card I really wanted somewhat of a cabbage rose or a rose here on the front. And in the past I have done videos on how to make these roses, and if you've done my video and you've made the roses, they are quite tight. This was one, and some of the problem is that I'm encountering, especially with Graphic 45 paper, my favorite paper, love it, but it does tear when I was making my roses. So, and these were just two examples from, if you've watched my video, of a couple of the roses that we made. Well, I got to playing around and I thought there's got to be an easier way to do these roses. And I know that some of the ladies that maybe have larger fingers, such as myself, or arthritis, these are really, they are hard. I'll be honest with you, they're hard. So what I did is I came up with this version, and I want to show that to you. What I used was my Fiskars punch, and this is the medium size one. And then because the very last petal is a little bit larger, it doesn't have to be. You can still use the smaller Fiskars if you'd like. So I'm just going to do the video on this one. Let me just close my punch here. And so let's get started. What I did was I started out with 5 of these petals. So any 5 will do. One thing, this mat that I have actually just came in my iPad, and I love it a lot better than I do my whole set from McGill. You can buy the mat. Oh, I still like the mat, but I just really love this. It's a little more squishy. And for this one, I'm going to use my the 8mm. And if you don't have one of these, then you can use, if you have one of these from Cricut, or you can even use a paintbrush. You just aren't going to want to push very hard, especially with a paintbrush. If you have one of these from Cricut, one of the tools, it actually works very well because it is padded, so you can get that motion that you want. Hobby Lobby, I did get mine at Hobby Lobby with my 40% off. It's a whole kit, and I absolutely love it. So we'll get started. So you'll need your 5 petals. What we're going to do is just take the ball kind of quick. We're just going to round up our flower. Like I said, this I think is a lot easier than the traditional way of making the roses, because if you get too much glue on some of the layers, you can't hold your petals back. And Graphic 45 is famous for cracking and splitting, and it's just the way the paper is layered. But I'm willing to sacrifice finding new ways in order to keep using my Graphic 45 paper, because it's just awesome. So just go ahead and keep rubbing. Like I said, if you are using one of your Cricut tools, it will be a little bit harder. Just go ahead and, instead of doing the rolling action that I'm doing, go ahead and just do some pushing action. See, you'll eventually get the same, and it still will give you the same effect. So I'm going to keep going here with my roller ball. This has been the best investment because you can do so much with it. So now you just want your petals to look like this. Now for your very last one, and I want the red side, so I'm just going to go ahead and pinch my petals in half. Again, this is where you have to be careful. Graphic 45 paper will tear, I think, much more easier than any other paper. Then I just kind of straighten it out a little bit. You want it to look a little bit, you know, like a flower, not perfect. I like to use my paintbrush. Again, if you don't have your paintbrush, you can even use your bone folder. And what you do with the bone folder is you just take it with your thumb and you push so that it rolls down. Kind of get the point there, but don't push too hard. You can round it down this way, or you can just take your paintbrush, and most people have them, and just roll it around the handle. And then you just want to give it a little push in the center to bring those petals up, so you have that look. Now, I prefer the hot glue gun for this, so you want to start with just one of your petals with some glue in the back on the bottom, I mean. Now when you're putting it down, make sure you're alternating your petals. Okay, and then as it's drying, I just kind of give it a little push. I want to keep that shape somewhat as the glue dries. So we're just going to alternate. You can also just use your finger and just give it a good push down, but you do need some kind of a padding. So if you have some foam from packing, or hubby has something in the garage you can go take from his tools, or you can buy the McGill set that does have, you can buy the McGill pad. Sorry, I don't mean to go out the camera. Just kind of get your alternations here. Now for this, I'm going to hold it for a minute. You want it to be good and dry. And then just kind of squish it up. Now, this is where you want to separate some of your petals. And this is where you're going to see it's kind of similar, but a little bit different than the traditional way of making the roses. So on your first petal at the top, let's get those all squished into the middle so it looks somewhat like that. Now, you are going to take these center ones and you want to squeeze them together. Crease them right down the middle. This is going to make your center bud. If you are using a G45 paper, be careful when pinching. Now can you see how we're going to get our rosebud center here? And it is a lot simpler than this method. So let's go ahead and start with some glue on the edge. It doesn't matter which petal. And then you're just going to push it together. And you want to keep this kind of going on the inside edges and get those somewhat glued. Bring it together and just pinch it shut like you would for a rosebud. Let me get up there closer so you can see. So now you can see our center rosebud taking shape. And it looks like I want to go ahead and I'm going to leave that actually. A little glue on this one. And then you can squish it out a little bit and change the shape as we're going. So now you have the center. Now go ahead and push your petals inward. And you just want to keep pushing them inward. And shape them up a little bit more. Now as you can see on this card, oh, sorry, bringing all my paper with me. I made the center and then I just basically left it. I wanted it to have kind of a cabbage, that cabbage rose look, but I could have glued them up, and I only used 3 of the petals. For this one we're going to use 5. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to start with this very bottom layer and I'm going to start rolling my petals. The nice thing about making your own flowers is they match. They will match exactly what you're doing. You don't have to run out to the store and buy matching flowers, matching stickers. You can use your colored, just plain cardstock to coordinate. You can use white, and then you can use some shimmer mist, shimmer sprays, dyes. And you don't have to buy flowers anymore. So let's just keep going up to each petal layer, and I'm just giving those a nice rounded look. Okay. I found that with my fingers not being the smallest, I was really having trouble getting into the other rows, because once it is glued down, then you try and do this to the petals and they were breaking and they were tearing and it was very upsetting. Okay, now I want to start bringing my flowers inward to give it more of that rose effect. Now when you're gluing though, you want to push back a little bit. You want glue just down here at this base. Okay, don't get glue up in here or you're going to lose that effect. So just a little bit of glue, and let's hold that up. You can, if you're confident enough, you can go ahead and just do all of them at once. Sometimes I do, and then just pinch them up. You can do a couple at a time, just whatever you're comfortable at. I found that this also gives me a little bit more control to how I want my flower to look. And you do have to be a little patient, let it dry, because you can, then you're going to just do a little bit of reshaping. Remember, flowers aren't perfect in nature, and as perfect as we want our flowers to be, it's nice to have a little bit of imperfection on our paper flowers. So we're going to push this one up. Now, this is where you want to shape each one as you go, so you know exactly how far up you want to glue it. Now mine is a little off-centered here, so it is going to look a little funny. I didn't quite get my petal centered, but that's okay. It still is going to be a usable flower. If you are using just a wet glue, which you can do, you need a little more time to allow the drying, of course. Now you can, as you're going, this also will give you more control to look at it and say, I really like the fullness. I'm not going to bring any more of my petals up, but I'm going to keep going. I want a little bit of a tighter rose on this one. You can see we already have the band because I did it with the paintbrush. So yeah, you can just use your fingers now. You don't have to use the tweezers. On this version, you have to use tweezers to pull it apart, and that's where inevitably I always tear my flower. Bring the fourth layer of petals up. I have to put another glue stick here. There we go. Just remember, pull it down. You don't want to get a ton of glue on that petal. Okay, and work now on my last layer. I'm just going to keep going on. Yes, you'll have to clean up all your strings. That one's already, because that's my off-center side. So, there you have your rose. Now, the big piece, this was the bigger piece. See how it's going to sit there, and it actually adds some fullness to your rose. And I'm just going to set that there in the middle. And then you can, again, you can pinch your petals, bring them up. This is also, you can take your distress ink, your glitter sprays, and you can really give your flower a good spritz and sparkles. And there we have our rose ready to go. There's the back. Just add some glue, and you've got a beautiful rose that is perfect for any mini album. You can make some of these bottoms even bigger, and then you can group them together, and you can make them smaller. This is a little bit harder, but you can kind of do the same thing using this teeny tiny one for your sanders, and you can make huge cutouts. And there is a video how I did this, and I just cut this out of a 4x4 piece of paper and added it on. Add your beads, and you've got matching flowers for all of your crafts. So I hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave me a message. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.